Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. In this video, I want to share a few things that I found in the Wilford Woodruff papers. A few different topics. One, there was a vision that he had that I didn't have on my spreadsheet where I'm tracking visions and visitations. Secondly, there's some new details about Adam-ondi-Ahman that I didn't know before. And then thirdly, I found a couple more quotes that have to do with the city of Enoch. So it just makes me wonder how much more is there in the Wilford Woodruff papers, the Joseph Smith papers, and just all over. There are so many gems just all over the place. You just have to look for them. So I found some and I want to share them with you. Before we get into it, here's the update on the Flood the Earth Challenge. We're at 9,736 copies of the Book of Mormon that have been shared so far. We're trying to get to 10,000. So hopefully within the next couple months, we'll be at 10,000. I'll do a special live stream and we'll celebrate. I would encourage you to join the challenge if you haven't already. It's a great way to motivate yourself and others to share copies of the Book of Mormon that you otherwise would not share. So use the Gospel Library app, go to Scriptures. There's a button that says share, so you can share the Book of Mormon app. And that's probably the easiest way to do it. Or you can just give out a hard copy. Once you do, just let me know in the comments or send me an email. Make sure to include #flood up here at the top left. #flood, because I search that and it helps me find your comments and your emails. Okay, so let's just get into it. So here we are on the Wilford Woodruff papers. This is a journal that goes from January 1893 until April 1897. Okay. And this is kind of interesting, okay? It's just between these two entries right here for January 4th and January 5th. Let me see if I can zoom in. Okay. So on the 4th, I met at the office of William H. Colson, who presented us with the views furnished for furnishing the temple from the firm of Tiffany and Company for us to decide upon. We met with the bank board and transacted all necessary business. The board of the University of the Church met, and then Sister J.M. Grant died at 6:30 on the 3rd of January, 1893. Now, I want you to pay attention to something here. Let's scroll up and we'll look at the original entry. So you'll notice on this page, pretty much everything is in black, except for this right here, this part about Sister J.M. Grant dying. Okay. And then for the next entry for January 5th, you have this in red. Okay. So what is that? So on the 5th, it says, I had a vision last night. Now, I have noticed in the short amount of time that I've been looking at the Wilford Woodruff papers that he has like little codes that he puts in here. In fact, come to think of it, let's see if we can find one of them on one of these other pages. Yeah. So for example, he'll have like little ways of like categorizing his entries. Like he'll have this picture or this like little drawing sketch of crossed keys. And then this one is supposed to be like a crown and they mean different things. And if you go over here, the Joseph Smith papers, the Wilford Woodruff papers project, they tell you what these mean. So cross keys means priesthood ordinances. And then a crown means activities requiring executive authority. So when we come back here, there's nothing like that over here, but I guess the people that that run this project, they know what this code means. And you can see this is not English. It seems to be some kind of made up language or something like that. There's kind of like a caret symbol right there and then 2 dots and a up and down line and something weird looking right here. Looks like it's like Arabic at this part. So that's kind of neat. So what does he say after this? All right, he says, I met with Mr. Lamborn this morning upon the subject of the painting of Adam-ondi-Ahman. We met with George Taylor, who represented the state of the First National Bank of Provo. The amnesty from President Harrison appears in the papers this morning Herald, but it is of little benefit to the people. We had a meeting with President Shurtleff about the standard in Ogden. And then that's it. Like, all we know in code is that he had a vision last night. And the day before, Sister J.M. Grant died. So I don't know what his vision was, but what I can tell you, and what you can see for yourself, is that I had a vision last night, and then Sister J.M. Grant dying is both in red. So if I had to guess, I would guess that it has something to do with her passing on. I don't know. Who is she? This is her right here, Lucy Stringham Grant. They don't have much information for her on the Wilford Woodruff papers, but it turns out that she was the wife of Heber J. Grant. Okay, Heber Jetty Grant, who, of course, later on, after Wilford Woodruff's time, became president of the church. There's an entry on Heber J. Grant's Wikipedia page where it just talks about the fact that they were really close. They'd essentially known each other from a very early age. Brigham Young was surprised, Brigham Young Jr. was surprised at how many letters they wrote to each other. So they were like really close. But I mean, that's all I can tell you. She passed away. He put that in red, and then in code, he put that he had a vision. So I wouldn't be surprised if it had something to do with that, but I don't know. But I did go ahead and put it on my spreadsheet called Timeline, Visions, and Visitations. It turns out this is the third account that I have of a vision or visitation for the 1890s. Unfortunately, I don't know who he saw or what he saw, but I'm taking note of it. Okay. At the very bottom, as you probably already know, if you've been watching my channel, I have a tally of the number of visions and visitations per decade. So like I said, for the 1890s, now there's 3, which is relatively high. There's a few other decades that beat out the 1890s by a little bit. And then you have the 2 like powerhouse decades of the 1820s and the 1830s with the most so far. Okay, so there's that for you, but let's go ahead and move on. Oh yeah, there was one thing I wanted to say about him using code. Like, you may think that that's strange or maybe not. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Do you think that's weird? I think the reason why he does that, I feel like it's pretty obvious. You safeguard sacred things, but let me show you something that Elder Richard G. Scott said. He was of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. This is the April 2012 General Conference, How to Obtain Revelation and Inspiration for Your Personal Life. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but this is the one where he says that there's a certain period of time as you're falling asleep, like when you're neither really awake or asleep. That's like a prime time to receive revelation. That's what he said in this General Conference talk. And then at the end, he says, recording will also enhance our ability to recall revelation. Such recording of direction of the Spirit should be protected from loss or intrusion by others. Okay, so yeah, if you have like kind of like a little code or pictures or symbols to kind of safeguard things that no one knows what they're looking at, yeah, that's a good way to do it. Also, remember recently, I did a video about the sealed portion of the gold plates, and there's this part in the Book of Mormon. This is in Ether chapter 3, and we're going to look at verse 24. And it says, "For behold, the language which ye shall write I have confounded. Wherefore I will cause in my own due time that these stones shall magnify to the eyes of men these things which ye shall write." So I take that to mean that the sealed portion of the gold plates were written in some kind of code. The language was confounded, And it seems that the context is that so no one can interpret it without the aid of the Urim and Thummim. Right. So, and I'm sure that there's probably more examples out there. I might have to make a new topic on my quotes A through Z spreadsheet for like writing in code. I know. I think it was like in the Doctrine and Covenants when it was originally written down. There were code names for Joseph Smith and others for like privacy and protection. I think that's not really the same thing. Anyway, if you have more information about that you'd like me to see, then feel free to send it to me. Send me an email or something. Okay, so let's move on from there. Let's switch gears and let's talk about Adam-ondi-Ahman. Now, Adam-ondi-Ahman, there's not really a whole lot of information that I'm aware of. Whether it has to do with the appearance of Christ at Adam-ondi-Ahman as part of the second coming, because that's one of the several appearances before the second coming. There's supposed to be a gathering there. It's been a while since we've talked about this. I feel like I've done it to death. I have a playlist about it if you want to see what I've found. So you have like different quotes out there that talk about that gathering, but then there's other quotes that talk about essentially the characteristics and history of Adam-ondi-Ahman. And that's what this has to do with. So this is in Autobiography Volume 3, which is between like 1865 and 1866, around there. And there's this entry, the place where Adam offered his first sacrifice. Now, this isn't new to us. It's not news. We know, okay, so let's do this. Just because I never know. There's always new people joining, and I don't know what everybody knows. So, Independence, Missouri, not forecast. Okay, Independence, Missouri. We know that this is the site of the New Jerusalem. It's going to be built there. We already have a temple in waiting. It's the Independence Visitor Center. Right now, it's acting as a visitor center, but it was built to become one of the 24 temples of the 24 temple complex. I've done videos about that. I've mentioned it a million times. So this is a special location, not just because it's the future city of Zion or New Jerusalem. The reason why it's located here is because this is the site of the Garden of Eden. This is where the Garden of Eden was in our theology, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So what happened was when Adam and Eve were cast out of the Garden of Eden, they went north to what is now called, the area or the towns near there. You have Jameson and Jamesport. Let's see, can I find it? All right, here we go. There's Jameson, and Gallatin is south of here. And here's Adam-ondi-Ahman, this area right here. This is the valley of Adam-ondi-Ahman. This is where this is where Adam and Eve dwelt after the Garden of Eden. This was their home. And as far as we know, this is really the first like temple area or temple space in the history of the world. There were altars that were erected here, and that's what we're actually going to read about. So, okay, President Kimball said, "I have told the people today far greater things than drawing handcarts to Zion. Joseph Smith took President Brigham Young and myself to the very spot in Adam-ondi-Ahman where Adam offered up his first sacrifice, on a spot now called Hogback." So this is new. I've never heard this before, Hogback. I'm probably going to have to talk to Tamara. She's my friend up there that lives right down this street. It's like a dirt road from Adam-ondi-Ahman. She gave us a tour there because, she had to stay at her house, and she knows a lot about that place because she lives right there. I'm going to have to see if she's ever heard of Hogback or if she knows exactly where that's at. But this is new to me, Hogback. But there's more. So we have that. And then now we're looking at journal, February 1880 to December 1885. The entry for May 13th, 1883. And it has the two symbols, the crossed keys and the crown. Okay. A.O. Smoot, and that would be Abraham O. Smoot, told Wilford Woodruff that he and Alanson Ripley, while surveying out Adam-ondi-Ahman, about 22 miles north of Jackson County, Missouri, they came across a stone wall in the midst of a dense forest and underbrush. The wall was 30 feet long and 3 feet thick and about 4 feet high above the ground and laid in mortar or cement. When Joseph Smith, the prophet, visited the place and examined the wall, he said it was the remains of an altar built by Father Adam, where he offered sacrifice after he was driven from the Garden of Eden, which was located in Jackson County, Missouri. The whole town, which was laid out and named Adam-ondi-Ahman, was in the midst of a thick and heavy forest of timber, and the place named after Adam's altar. The prophet Joseph said it was upon this altar where Adam blessed his sons and posterity before his death. Let historians of the church note this. Now, this is interesting because right here we're talking about a wall that's 30 feet long, 3 feet thick, and 4 feet high. That's a pretty sizable structure. And it sounds different from another altar. I don't know if it's like a separate altar. I think it's a separate altar. I know that there was an altar for prayer at Adam-ondi-Ahman, like one that you kneel at. And then you have one for burning sacrifices. So because this is so big, I can only assume that this is the one for, I think it's said right here, offered sacrifice. Yeah. This is the one where it's big. It's where you would offer sacrifice. So you have this altar, but there is another, what seems to be another altar, and it's described differently from this. So this one's like a big wall. Okay. So keep that in mind. We'll get back to that in just a minute. Now we're looking at the journal for January 1st, 1873 to February 7th, 1880. This one has a crossed keys symbol. And this entry is March 30th, 1873. And it says, again, President Young said, Joseph the prophet told me that the Garden of Eden was in Jackson County, Missouri. And when Adam was driven out of the Garden of Eden, he went about 40 miles to the place which we named Adam-ondi-Ahman, and there built an altar of stone and offered sacrifice. That altar remains to this day. I saw it as Adam left it, as did many others. And through all the revolutions of the world, that altar had not been disturbed. Joseph also said that when the city of Enoch fled and was translated, it was where the Gulf of Mexico now is. It left that gulf a body of water. Okay, so we're going to talk about the city of Enoch in just a minute, but this is a new quote for that topic. I already had like a similar quote, but this is another one. So we'll get to that in just a minute. Okay, so let's go to my entry for Adam-ondi-Ahman, altars, and temple block. Okay, so I have the three that we just read right here. These are in chronological order. The older quotes are to the right, newer ones to the left. And let's look at this one from Heber C. Kimball, first counselor in the first presidency. So he kind of gives like the context of what's going on. I don't need to go over that right now. There's stuff going on. And then he says, while there, we laid out a city on a high elevated piece of land and set the stakes for the four corners of a temple block. Okay, for the block, not for the temple itself, not cornerstones. The four corners of a temple block, like a city block, which was dedicated. Brother Brigham being mouth. There were from 300 to 500 men present on that occasion under arms. This elevated spot was probably from 250 to 500 feet above the level of Grand River, so that one could look east, west, north, or south as far as the eye could reach. It was one of the most beautiful places I ever beheld. The prophet Joseph called upon Brother Brigham, myself, and others, saying, "Brethren, come along with me, and I will show you something." He led us a short distance to a place where were the ruins of 3 altars built of stone, one above the other. Okay, so this sounds different from that wall altar that we were just reading about. 3 altars built of stone, one above the other, and one standing a little back of the other, like unto the pulpits of the Kirtland Temple, representing the 3 orders, representing the order of 3 grades of priesthood. There, said Joseph, is the place where Adam offered up sacrifice after he was cast out of the garden. The altar stood at the highest point of the bluff. I went and examined the place several times while I remained there. So, I don't know, maybe this is the same thing, because here it's saying this is where he offered up sacrifice. It doesn't talk about the fact of that it's like a wall or that it's long and tall. The way that this reads, it's almost like it's just kind of like what I picture is like 3 kind of like flat boulders, stacked on top of each other and going back like steps. So let's take a look at this panoramic picture I took on April 8th when we were there for the eclipse. We toured the temple just before the eclipse. It was an amazing experience. Have I said that before? And here are the pulpits. But essentially, these are a direct reference to Adam's altar. So you have these ones on, I think, the east side of the temple that are for the Melchizedek priesthood. And then you have the ones on the other side that are for the Aaronic priesthood. And we've gone over these before. I'm not going to do it now, but it essentially goes like the top one up here for the Melchizedek priesthood is for the first presidency, and the next one for the apostles. Even though there's just 3 seats, it's for like levels of the priesthood. So like for apostles, and then this one I think was just for like high priests. But then there's kind of like a 4th level that doesn't have these same type of pulpits, but it's like for the elders, or it's something like that. But the idea is that it represents the different like levels or offices of the priesthood, both Melchizedek and Aaronic over here. So I think that's really cool. Like I've said before, when Christ appeared in the Kirtland Temple and he was standing on this or in this area, he's essentially standing on something that represent a sacrificial altar. So I feel like it gives that experience even more meaning, more depth, that he's standing on that. Okay, so this is kind of like what I pictured that altar to look like at Adam-ondi-Ahman. Now, it's not there today, or if it is, it may be buried, or maybe the church, deconstructed it and moved it somewhere safe. I don't know. I have no information about that. But it's pretty clear that at that time, somewhere over here, you had this altar. And there, like I said, I think there were 2 altars, one for prayer and one for sacrifice. You have Tower Hill right here, which I think one of the altars were over here, and then you have Spring Hill, which is over here. This is where the city of Adam-ondi-Ahman would have been built. And you do have the ruins of homes that were built but then abandoned that are kind of like in this area. But I think that the temple, like the temple block that we were just talking about, and the temple that would be built on the temple block would be somewhere over here, I believe. So, and then here's, like I said, here's the valley, which is currently used for farming. There's some locals in the area that the church allows to farm the valley. Okay, so let's go back here. Oh no, not right there, over here. So that's really neat. So I do have some question about the altar and exactly what it looked like. Are we talking about the like two different altars, or I don't know, like when we're talking about the wall and when we're talking about these three like stones, I don't know. Um, and then there's this account by President David O. McKay where he was doing like a Missouri trip, and he was taken to Adam-ondi-Ahman, and it says here, I'm just going to read part of this. Elder Dyer, this is Alvin R. Dyer, identified the two pieces of property totaling 140 acres that options to buy had been obtained from Dustman by the church. The one piece contained the bluff area of Spring Hill, where once many of the homes of Adam-ondi-Ahman were erected, including also the ruins of the storehouse located in the center block in this old city, together with the temple site and the altar site, where sacrifice was offered by Adam. So, yeah, Spring Hill, an altar, excuse me, an altar over there. Okay, so that's what I got. This is now what I have in regards to Adam's altar, and I think when we're talking about this, we're essentially talking about really the first temple space outside of the Garden of Eden itself, which is pretty incredible. Okay, now let's get back to this whole thing with the city of Enoch. Like I said, this is not the first time that we've seen in an account of Joseph Smith saying that the city of Enoch was where the Gulf of Mexico now is. So I have this. Well, probably even better this one right here. Okay, so Enoch, city of Enoch, land or no land. So I used to be of the opinion that it was just people that were translated. And now I'm kind of more, I don't know, because you have Bruce R. McConkie who said, this is in an article called Building Up Zion in the September 1977 Liahona. After the Lord's people were translated, for it was people who were caught up into heaven, not brick and mortar and stone, for there are better homes already in heaven than men can build on earth. After these righteous saints went to dwell beyond the veil, others were being converted and desiring righteousness, looked for a city which hath foundation, whose builder and maker is God, and they too were caught up by the powers of heaven into Zion. So the way that reads, it seems like it was people, not, well, he specifically says like basically buildings, because brick, mortar, and stone. So maybe he's, I don't know. Make of that what you will. But then we have these other couple accounts. So there's this one. This is in the Wilford Woodruff papers in a journal. I was unwell. John Taylor preached in the morning, Joseph Young in the afternoon, and Wilford Woodruff spoke upon the subject of the coming fair. I met with the 12 in the evening. Orson Hyde prayed. Orson Pratt was mouth. It was the first time Elder Hyde has met with us for some time. He has been absent for some 3 weeks in consequence of hearing that there were some warrants out for him. The evening was spent in conversing upon the subject of the 10 tribes in the North Country, the higher law of God, in opposition to the law of gravitation in the ascension of Christ. Elijah and Enoch and the city of Zion to heaven upon the same principle. A portion of the North Country containing the 10 tribes may be separated from the earth. Orson Hyde and others believed they would soon return. So they are talking about physically, again, you would read this and think, it sounds like they're talking about actual land. Because it says a portion of the North Country in the case of the 10 lost tribes. So you have that. And then you have this one. Okay, Wilford Woodruff papers. It was the opinion of the prophet Joseph that the city of Enoch was in the Gulf of Mexico, and that Adam offered his sacrifice and built his first altar in Adam-ondi-Ahman, and the stones of his altar are there now to be seen. The city of Enoch was taken up but the city of Zion, which we shall build, will remain and not be taken away as his city was. Noah was 120 years in building an ark. We have not been 40 years yet in building up Zion in our day and the kingdom of God on the earth. Okay, and then we have this, the one that I just read from the website. Okay, so now we have basically 3 quotes. They all come from Wilford Woodruff's journals, but he repeats it several times that it seems that the city of Enoch was actually land and it was taken away. But then you have Bruce R. McConkie that suggests that it's just people, or at least not the actual buildings. So I don't know. This one I'm a little bit more divided on. I don't really care when it comes down to it. We'll see what happens. I'm okay with there being ambiguity, and so whatever. I'm just going to take note of it. Okay, and I have one last thing to share with you, which also has to do with the city of Enoch, but it doesn't have to do with being caught up, like having the land caught up and leaving behind the Gulf of Mexico. This is really interesting. Look at this. So this is Deseret News, July 5th, 1866. It's a discourse by Elder Wilford Woodruff at the Tabernacle, reported by E.L. Sloan. Okay, and this is what he says. Why did not Enoch remain on the earth and Zion prevail? Now answer that really quick. Before you read on, before I continue, what do you think? For me, I've been taught over and over again, it's because they were so righteous. That's why. It's because they were so righteous. Well, I'm not so sure that that's necessarily the case. Look at this. Wilford Woodruff says, because wickedness prevailed. The majority of the human family in that generation were wicked. They were not ruled over by the Lord, and hence there were not men enough on the face of the earth in that generation who were willing to receive the gospel, to keep the commandments of God and work the works of righteousness, for Enoch to have power to remain on the earth. Therefore, it was that the Lord took Enoch and the city of Enoch to himself, for we are informed by revelation that the city was translated in all its inhabitants. There were not men enough in the days of Enoch who were willing to sustain that which was right. One part or the other had to leave the earth. And the Lord translated Enoch and his city and took them home to himself. You may trace the history of the kingdom of God from that time down, and you will find this prevailing among the nations of the earth. They were prone to evil, to sin, to blasphemy, to lie, to steal, to swear, to commit adultery, to pollute the earth, which they inherited, and in their day and generation, and hence it was an impossibility for the Lord to establish his kingdom among the children of men unless he could find willing minds enough to receive that kingdom, to build it up and sustain it and do the works of righteousness. So that's really interesting. And you have to think about our relationship to the city of Enoch, because the church of the last days altogether is New Jerusalem. That's one of the definitions of New Jerusalem, Zion. It's the church. I have quotes for that. I'm not going to go over that now. So I feel like we're kind of in a similar situation. I mean, I don't know. The church is growing. We'll have to wait and see how things play out. But at the same time, the world is becoming more and more divided in every single way, including spiritually. It feels like people are becoming more and more wicked, or they're going the other way. And that seems to be the same thing that was going on at the time of Enoch and Noah, right? But in their case, because there was still thousands of years left to Earth's history before the millennium, it seems that, okay, It's like God sent all these spirits to earth, and there's just a tiny portion of them that stayed true, that were part of the kingdom of God, and it seems that they couldn't make any headway. But because it wasn't time for the millennium yet, it's like, okay, well, it's fine. Everyone has their agency. You guys, you're good. We're going to take you up because I'm going to be cleansing the earth pretty soon anyway. Leave Noah behind. Him and his family will be spared, and we're going to do a reset. So the earth was reset. The wicked were destroyed by flood, which was, the baptism of the earth. But now we're getting toward the end of Earth's temporal existence. We have about 1,000 years left. And there's a plan for this last 1,000 years. And it's only going to be for the righteous. So I think we're getting to this same point, but this time Zion is not going to be taken up like the Zion of old. Zion's going to remain because we're at the end of Earth's history, and there's this millennial work that has to be done. So what's going to happen is there will be another worldwide destruction and cleansing, but not only are the righteous going to remain, but the original city of Enoch is going to come down. Now, my understanding of that, I think a lot of people think that they're basically like this breakaway civilization, that they've been having children this whole time, or they've maybe, there's billions or trillions of them maybe that are coming back. It's going to be much more than just a city. I don't think that that's the case, because I think it's in Millennial Messiah, Bruce R. McConkie talks about the fact that the reason why people were translated before Christ is because there was no resurrection available yet. So in the case of Moses, Elijah, Elias, they needed physical bodies to hold on to those priesthood keys. I'm not sure why, but that's just how it works. I suppose it has to do with you have to be in mortality in order to do the things of mortality. And so they held those keys. They couldn't be resurrected yet, so they were translated. But once Christ was resurrected, they were changed in the twinkling of an eye, just like we will be in the millennium. And so they held on to their physical bodies. And then they were able to come as resurrected personages to Joseph Smith in the Kirtland Temple and bestow the keys. Right? Anyway, that's what he said. And then in the case of Enoch and his city, well, because of that condition, the Lord wasn't just going to kill them all. It's oh, okay, you're good. You have exaltation now. Now your life's just going to end. No, he translated them because resurrection was not yet available. So I think what's going to happen, they're going to come. I don't expect a massive civilization. I think they're essentially exalted beings that are going to be coming down, and they're going to help us establish the kingdom of God moving forward into the millennium. That's my best understanding based on everything that I've collected so far. If you have anything else, feel free to send it to me. So there you go. It doesn't seem like it was because they were just they were so righteous and they were at such a level that they were translated. It seems more like it just had to do with the fact that the people of God had done everything that they could for the rest of the world, and so they had to be removed. They had to be taken away, and then after that, the world cleansed. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.